Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome again to our monthly webinar. On behalf of Sharon R. Pender, our President and CEO of the Capital Region Minority Supply Development Council, and the operator of the Virginia Minority Business Development Center, I am Tommy Marks, the Director of the Virginia Minority Business Development Center, and I welcome you to this month's informational webinar, and we are blessed to have the great team from the Washington Metro Area Transit Authority, led by Ms. Michelle Howard, who momentarily, when I finish this intro with her team, will provide for us the latest on what WMATA is doing and how you can possibly help them with their mission requirements. Again, this is doing business with WMATA. Excuse me, a little tongue-tied. Let me start by introducing Ms. Michelle Howard. Michelle, if you come on screen. For those that don't know her, first of all, she's an Army veteran, 3 tours. Hats off to you, fellow veteran. And she's also retired from the state of Maryland's transportation industry leader in coaching, educating, and advising small minority women-owned businesses on best practices. She is the new director of the small business programs for the Washington Metro Area Transit Authority. And as the director, Michelle provides managerial oversight and direction for the following socioeconomic areas: disadvantaged business enterprises, small business enterprises, and WMATA's new minority business enterprise and small business preference programs as defined and regulated by the federal and local regulations and WMATA board policies. Michelle, we thank you for being here. Next, part of the outstanding team that she's brought to us is Mr. Brian Gleason. Brian hails from New Orleans, Louisiana. That's about 90 miles from where I grew up as a little guy in Jeanerette, Louisiana. Brian, I don't know if you know about the sugarcane fields, but we know crawfish season's in full bloom right now. So for those folks that don't know what crawfish is, that's the native lobsters of Louisiana. You can't do without them if you put enough spice on them. Brian began his work as a supply diversity in 2008 with the Metropolitan government of Nashville, and he joined WMATA in the Small Business Program Office in November of 2020. And in his role, he's a senior small business auditor. His responsibilities consist of, but not limited to, analyze and monitor the department goals, devise methods and procedures to increase compliance and active participation by small, local, minority businesses. And the third member of this team today is Mr. Michael Bain. Michael is a highly experienced and economic development practitioner and small business growth strategies. He is a key asset to the WMATA Small Business Purchase Office, where he serves as a small business analyst. More than 15 years of experience resulting in a body of knowledge in the community development, capital access, and business growth strategies. And prior to joining WMATA, Michael was the small disadvantaged business manager at the Department of Small and Local Businesses Development, where in less than a year at the DSLBD, he developed a loan loss reserve program that leveraged $200,000 into $1.3 million in small business loans for the DC-based business. In little known history, he's also a former director of the Washington, DC MBDA Business Center, which the Department of Commerce has or had when he was running it from 2014 to 2015. So we want to welcome our standing guests, and they will be led by, again, Ms. Michelle Howard, who will enlighten us on the things that are happening at WMATA. Thanks, folks.
Thank you so much, Tommy. We really appreciate, that great introduction of our team. We are so excited here at WMATA, especially because what you're going to hear about today is our new non-federal programs. The team is going to go over with you the Minority Business Enterprise Program, our Small Business and Micro Business programs, and these are non-federally funded. These programs came about so we could have additional contracting opportunities for our small women and minority owned businesses. And we're just excited to actually get them on board. One of the things that we do want to do here at WMATA is to increase our certification database with our certified businesses so that we can market them throughout the entire WMATA, not just for our capital and operational, but also for inventory and credit cards, to market them to have that low-hanging fruit to get those contracts where they need to be for our small businesses. This will also continue to help WMATA to be a staple in the local DMV when it comes to the partnerships that we have with our small businesses. Next slide. So on today's agenda, we've done welcome and introductions. You will get an overview for the socioeconomic programs. You'll hear about the certification process. You'll hear about the purpose of contract compliance and how we do it somewhat here. You'll also hear about legal requirements dealing with the contract compliance. We'll touch on prompt payment. We'll give you some of the acronyms that you see in the industry. We have a pre-award cycle and post-award cycle that we'll go over with you. And at the end, if there's time, we'll do a Q&A. Next slide. Next slide. Thank you. So these are the programs that you will hear about today. We have 5 socioeconomic programs and 2 certification programs. You are familiar with the DBE and the SBPO programs. Those are the federal programs. You might not all be familiar with the MBE, the small business or micro business, and these are all non-federal. Now, you do hear the acronym MBE on a national basis when it comes to those type of programs, but it does not mean that they're all administered within the same way. What we have done here at WMATA is to try not to have a heavy lift by making sure that it mirrors some of the things that you will see in the DBE program. When it comes to the certification programs, we are joint with DDOT. We have the DC UCP, District of Columbia Unified Certified Program. So we do a joint with them. The WMATA Certification Oversight Committee is strictly for our MBE program when it comes to their certification process. At this time in the program, I am going to hand it over to Michael Bing, and Michael will be going over with you some of the program information as well as certifications and everything. Thank you. Michael, you're muted.
Thank you. I was just saying thank you, Tommy, and thank you, Director Howard, for setting the stage for this presentation. Next slide, please. So I will be going a little deeper on the DBE, SBE, and the locally funded socioeconomic programs as well. So the DBE program, or Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, is really based on the ownership being 51% socially and economically disadvantaged, and that is the owner of the business. That individual cannot have a personal net worth that exceeds 1.32 million, and the 3-year average revenue of the business cannot exceed 28.48 million. The SBE is also federally funded, and it operates similar to the DBE. However, the SBE, or Small Business Enterprise Program, is race neutral. And race neutral basically means that Procurement does not make a conscious effort to identify socially and economically disadvantaged individuals for the purpose of the procurement. So we have race conscious, which is the opposite of that, and we have race neutral, which of course is not making that conscious effort. Next slide. Now, the next three programs that I will cover, the MBE, SBP, and MBP, are for locally funded projects. They are not for federally funded projects. Those programs or certification programs are the Minority Business Enterprise Program. The MBE program mirrors the DBE program. And for the DBE program, for those of you who are not aware, it is race and gender conscious. So any of the presumed disadvantaged individuals and women of all ethnicities and races are able to apply for the DBE program as well as the MBE program. WMATA went through the recently concluded disparity study to identify where those areas of need are within the DB or the socially and economic disadvantaged populations. The next program and the one following it, the SBP program, is also locally funded, but it is race neutral. And it is a race neutral contracting set aside program. The SBP and is for contract opportunities from 50,000 to no more than $1 million, and it's a requirement that there are at least 3 certified SBPs in order to set aside that contracting opportunity to that pool. Next slide. The MBP program is for a smaller subset of businesses, but is within the SBP program. It is also race neutral, just like the SBP program. It's for smaller set-asides up to $50,000, and you also need to have 3 certified micro businesses in order to set those aside. So for the SBP program, you can, and actually go into it a little bit more in the next slide, but you cannot make more than $10 million in your 3-year average revenues, and you cannot have more than 50 employees. For the MBP program, you cannot make more than $3 million over on your 3-year average and have more than 25 employees. Next slide. So the key provisions of these programs. The MBE program is race and gender conscious. It's for locally funded projects. It has project-specific subcontracting goals. It is for prime and MBE subcontractor. It incorporates the subcontractor monthly prompt payments, which is an asset for small businesses to ensure that those subcontractors are paid properly. And that'll be covered more by my colleague, Brian Gleason. There's also an MBE termination, substitution, and reduction request. So an MBE cannot be automatically substituted or terminated without going through the Small Business Programs Office. And it has to have a commercially useful function. In each one of these certifications, the MBE and the SBP and MBP, all 3 of those programs have 2-year certification periods, at which time you would have to submit more documentation to continue that certification. The SBP program and MBP program, as I mentioned earlier, is race and gender neutral. It is for a smaller subset of contracts, not exceeding $1 million for the SBP, typically not exceeding $500,000. but based on the discretion of our VP and Chief Contracting Procurement Officer, Suzette Moore, it can go up to $1 million. But typically the SBP projects are from 50 to a $500,000. Next slide. The individuals who are presumed disadvantaged, I touched on this briefly. Those individuals are African American, Asian American, Hispanic, Native American, subcontinent Asian American, and women. It basically follows the line of ethnicity, the same as the MBDA, because we actually follow the SBA's listing of individuals presumed disadvantaged. And the only difference being for women, it does not have to do with ethnicity. The disparity is purely because of the gender in that sense. Next slide. Now I will cover certification, just a brief overview. Any of you who are interested in becoming certified as disadvantaged business enterprise or an SBE, small business enterprise, or if you are based or headquartered in DC, Maryland, or Virginia, you can actually look to apply for our small business program or micro business program. The MBE program, the Minority Business Enterprise Program, is for individuals, and it does not matter where you're headquartered. You just have to meet the criteria based on this being socially and economically disadvantaged. In order to apply, you will go onto our website and you either navigate to the Metro's or WMATA's small supplier portal, where you can begin to apply for the certification. Next slide. Some of the documents that you would have to submit. You download your uniform certification application. If you are headquartered anywhere other than the District of Columbia, you would first want to be certified as a DBE in your home state. If you're from Virginia, it would be VDOT, or it would be MWA, the Metropolitan Washington area, or Airport Authority, or if you're in Maryland, it would be MDOT. Once you receive that certification, you can download the uniform certification application and just put together all these documents to upload. There's a number of documents, but all of this is in an effort to preserve the integrity of the program, to ensure that an individual is truly presumed economically and socially disadvantaged and not a pass-through. So we look at tax returns, personal, corporate, personal net worth documents, resumes, lease agreements. We look at a lot of documents because we have to ensure that we can preserve a program like this for individuals that qualify for it. Next slide. You'll also download your personal net worth form to ensure that you don't exceed that 1.32 million. As I mentioned, everything would actually be uploaded at the Metro supplier portal. Should you need any help, there will be a contact list at the end of this slide presentation. And you will see on there the SBPO hotline at WMATA.com. That is the key email where you can reach us for compliance as well as for certification issues. Next slide. Annual recertification follows the same lines. You would just have to upload your most recent corporate and personal tax returns, your home state certification letter, and your no change affidavit. Next slide. And the 3-year audit's a little bit more exhaustive. You would upload your tax returns, 3 years, personal, corporate, your home state, DBE no change affidavit. Upload those documents, we review it, and we would continue to certify you. And the next slide. And I will introduce you to, or bring on Brian Gleason, my colleague, to cover the rest.
Thank you, Michael Bing. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to go through the meat and potatoes, actually, about the funds, the money, how we support you as a vendor. That part will be considered the contract compliance piece. Contract compliance itself consists of two phases. One, the pre-award. Second, is the post-award. Later in this presentation, I will go through further details as to what's the difference between the two phases. Next slide, please. So contract compliance is a mechanism that we use not only to monitor the contract performance, but the financial activities as use and the usefulness of the proposed certified subcontractors on any project. Next slide, please. So some people would ask, well, why do we do this? What's the purpose of this? Why do we have to report the payments, this, that, and the other? Are there any legal requirements and or guidances that give you all the authority to do so? Well, I'm glad that you asked that question. Next slide. There are legal assurances and guidances that we must follow according to 49 CFR Part 26.13, which simply states that WMATA, who is the recipient, and the contractor must sign and include the assurance that the recipient shall not discriminate on any basis of race, color, national origin, sex, or in the award and performance of a contract. WMATA is required to take every necessary and reasonable step to ensure that there's no acts of discrimination in the award and or administration of that contract. Next slide. The same assurances that WMATA must have with the financial institution or financial federal agency, that the contractor must clearly include the same requirements and assign socioeconomic programs, goals, and administration on their contracts, as well as the assurance of non-discrimination that will not take place on theirs as well. So the same responsibilities that WMATA have with the federal agency, that is also passed down to the prime contractor and subcontractor. If for any reason the prime contractor fails to carry out any of the requirements that's mentioned in the contract, it is considered to be the breach of contract, which can result and may result in various penalties. Next slide. Under that, WMATA has the right to perform compliance and enforcement if the prime and or sub fail to comply with all parts of the contract. Next slide. Prompt payment. Next slide. So prompt payment is a part of the post-award phase. It is a federal mandated mechanism that all socioeconomic programs must have in place to ensure that the prime contractor is being paid and that they are paying their subcontractors for satisfactory work no later than 30 days of receipt of payment made to the prime contractor. Also, it also ensures prompt and full retainage, payment of retainage, if applicable, from the prime contractor to subcontractor within 30 days after the subcontractor's work is satisfactorily complete and not when the overall project is completed. This may be news to some, but information to others. Again, I'll just elaborate just a little bit. Typically in the construction industry where retainage is held, typically prime contractors try to hold retainage until the overall project is complete. As I mentioned, by federal mandate and law, they cannot do that. Once the individual subcontractor's portion of work has been satisfactorily completed and or all the necessary documentation has been submitted, that prime contractor must release retainage for that individual subcontractor. Next slide, please. Just a little bit of alphabet soup, I call it. Throughout our lives, a lot of times we use all these acronyms and things like that. So if you're ever working with WMATA and you should see these in any contract, you can reference this page here. Just says Metro acronyms, what we use, so you'll know what those acronyms are if for some chance you just don't know. Next slide, please. So just going into the next slide, our pre-award procurement cycle. This cycle here, this here is a great tool of reference. which will illustrate how we at WMATA procure and the successful process in which we go by. So you'll see what information is done, is needed, who's responsible for doing it. We're in a loop, who may be responsible, if any questions or whatever, that person or procurement person can actually see where we are. If in fact this process is actually followed, it's guaranteed success in the award of the contract with awesome subcontracting opportunities to meet whatever goal that has been put on this project. In addition, it will illustrate and announce the announcing the opportunities, whatever assigned goals, where the reviewing programmatic application, publications, receipt, and reviewing of bid and proposals. So again, this chart here is just a point of reference that we pass out to everyone, so they'll see what the procurement cycle looks like and how we administer procurements with the with WMATA. Next slide, please. Next slide. So lastly, we have the post-award procurement cycle. At the execution of the contract, the work and responsibilities of the prime don't just stop there. At the conclusion of the pre-award phase, it continues to a process called post-award. During this phase, we actively monitor the activities in relations to the subcontractor's participation throughout the life of the contract. As a WMATA prime contractor, it is your responsibility to report any and all subcontractor participation on a monthly basis via our electronic systems. All contractors and or designated persons, whoever they designate to do this function, must provide this on a monthly basis and must attend a mandatory prompt payment training. And in this slide, you can see where you can, if you are currently and or will be in the future, email us to request that training. In doing that, we require that all prime contractors must report all subcontracting activity on a monthly basis. When I say all, that means certified firms as well as non-certified. As Mr. Bing mentioned earlier in his presentation, the reason why we need to know, because we want to have a holistic universe of vendors and or firms. When we're looking at doing our disparity study which we just completed in January, which will tell us where in the what ethnicity is there a disparity, so we'll know how to handle that and what we may need to do in order to rectify that disparity. Secondly is for a market utilization study, which tells us which firms are able, willing, and ready to work. So we want to make sure that we have a holistic pool, not only just make sure that we have those certified firms, but also the firms that are not certified as well. Next slide, please. So here you have just the contact slide of all of our general and programmatic questions if you should have, and/or inquiries as to becoming a registered vendor. Whatever questions you have, you can always reach us by reaching us at the SBPO hotline at WMATA.com. On behalf of the entire staff at WMATA, we thank you for your time, your attention. Want you to know that we want you rather than just need you, because as it was stated before, that was told to me, it's best to be wanted than needed, because when the need runs out, you have no use for it anymore. So we definitely want you to become a vendor if you're not already a vendor with us. And just the last note, if you look in the PowerPoint presentation will be attached to this, along with some other handouts that we have provided. At this time, I now turn you back over to Mr. Tommy.
Thank you, Brian. Tommy, thank you all for inviting us. I just want to say one last thing. One of the things that we will be sending for your audience today is a list of our contracting opportunities from WMATA, not just the solicitations they can find on the website. We are going to put together a list for the capital, operational, and everything, and send it over so that your audience will be able to receive that.
Michelle, thanks very much. And in fact, just to emphasize what Brian said to the folks in the audience, there are 3 handouts that have already listed in the handout section that you could download. And they will also be put on our website when this is over. So if you can't figure out how to download them, Claudia's going to hang them on our website. Our team will hang them on our website when this is over. So Michelle, I think at this point is where you all are ready to take some questions.
Yes, my team can come back on screen.
Yes. So I'll ask all my folks in the back room that's behind the curtain if there are any questions in the chat.
Yes, good afternoon. This is Alice. There is a question from Judith Ross. Her question is, if you're a DC CBE with a DBE destination, is there a streamlined application process?
So the
Guys, answer that, please.
Yeah, the CBE program has its own DBE. The DBE program that goes along with the Certified Business Enterprise program they're both non-federal. So it's not the same DBE as WMATA has. So WMATA has the federal disadvantaged business enterprise program. What I would recommend doing, since you're already with you've already been certified with DSLBD, is to either you can go through WMATA to be certified, or you can go through DDOT to be certified. Both DDOT and WMATA are both within the same unified certification program. So your certification is good with both agencies once you become certified as a DBE.
Thank you, Mr. Bing. I think the next question is for you as well. What application should you use for the Small Business Program SBP certs and Micro Business Program MBP certs?
If I'll put it in the chat, just give me a moment. Before this is over, I'll put it in a chat, and you would just select the link and you can review the different criteria for the SBP and the MBP program. One of the things that I don't think I mentioned is that the SBP and the MBP, neither program has a personal net worth criteria. So you can actually exceed that 1.32 million in personal net worth and still be able to get certified or be certified as an SBP or MBP. But I will put that information in the chat.
Thank you. The next question is towards disparity studies. When are you going to discuss the disparity studies that was showed?
So this disparity studies will be discussed once the WMATA board has determined that they are ready to release the information.
On average, how long does the DBE certification process take if we have received our DBE certification in Virginia?
We have by law in that it's listed in the 49 CFR Part 26. We have up to 90 days. I would like to say that we typically certify well before that, but there are certain situations that are there are extraneous circumstance at times based on the complication or complexity of the certification that we're doing, that it may take longer. But typically, I'd say we're probably about 60 days to turn around a certification on average.
Thank you. The next question, what does the 1.3 mil net worth application, is it for SBP and MBP?
The personal net worth only applies to the DBE and the MBE program, as well as the SBE. So on the DBE and the SBE are both the federally funded ones, and the personal net worth applies to that, as well as the MBE program, the Minority Business Enterprise. The SBP and the MBP, minority business program, neither one of those have a personal net worth requirement.
Thank you so much. The next question is a little bit lengthy, but I will read it. Can any of the DBE, et cetera, certifications be awarded without additional application and documentation requirements if a company is already a 8A MBE, WOSB, and Virginia SWAM certified?
You still have to fill out your paperwork. So if you're, I heard W, so I think I heard SWAM, the Virginia.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, if you're SWAM certified, I would recommend going to VDOT and applying for your DBE. The beauty of the Disadvantaged Business Program is that it's less paperwork, and it doesn't matter what jurisdiction you go to. So you can go to California, you can go to Texas, Iowa, wherever you want to actually get your, have your DBE parked as well. You do have to fill out other paperwork. But the one that typically takes the longest is being able to justify your NAICS codes or certify you in certain NAICS codes. That's done on your home state level. And so when you submit your home state certification letter along with the other required documents, that allows us to move a little bit faster and get your certification done if you are, if you do qualify.
Thank you, Mr. Bean. Another question. Our company is already SBE and MBE certified. Do we need to get SBP and MBP program?
Yeah, I think no, I mean it's a business case decision. It's a business case decision. If you qualify for other certifications, I think that Michelle says it all the time about the key to opportunities is becoming certified. And if you qualify for other certifications, I would recommend going for them if it makes sense for your business.
Okay, thank you so much. This is another question. Your compliance program is not working. What is wrong? I have no further comments on that, but if you can just talk a little bit about your compliance program and how you do your audits and stuff, maybe that will help.
Okay, I can handle that based on a question that was previously presented, which was, what do you look for when conducting audits, and what are your consequences when you identify non-compliance? Starting out, just want to clarify and make sure that we're all speaking from the same language when it comes to an audit. If you're referring to an audit being prompt payment monitoring, this is when SBPO compares the invoice amount posted in our electronic system by the prime contractor against the supporting documentation that they're required to submit as proof and evidence of the payment that they had paid these subcontractors. After the prime posts their payments, we would actually go in, or the sub will have to go in and confirm receipt of the payment and make sure that that payment is correct. So we're just not allowing people to just post or say that they paid so well. We want to make sure that the actual payment is correct and the amount received is correct. But sometimes there may be a discount offered, sometimes there may be an overstatement or what have you. We'll have that ask that sub to go in, or whomever, to go in and make the adjustments. We want to make sure what they've reported matches what they've invoiced and what they've paid them via EFT and or a check. When there hasn't been any payment activity reported, the assigned auditor should reach out to the prime, notifying them that they are in non-compliance due to them failing to report their monthly payment activity. We want to make sure that payment is reported on a monthly basis, simply because if you go beyond a month, we want to actively monitor and forecast out the goal. The goal that was set on there, is it attainable? Will the prime contractor actually meet that goal? And if we forecast out months in advance that, okay, it don't seem like you're gonna meet this goal, then we need to have a conversation as to What are you going to do? How do you plan on meeting that goal? On the other hand, I would say an audit for SBPO is actually performing a CUF review. That's the commercially use of function review, which is to go out to ensure that that certified firm that was proposed initially and then committed to is actually doing the work that they were proposed to do, but also that they are certified in that industry and that class to do that work. So I just want to make clarity as to an audit. What does it mean? So that we all can be on one accord and one page.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gleason. The next question is, will there be info about the upcoming Hitachi project on the list Michelle mentioned? Any further outreach events planned with WMATA and Hitachi?
So when it comes to the Hitachi group, we will be having probably another outreach near the end of the year. They just did the groundbreaking up in Hagerstown, Maryland, and we are working with them as that progresses. So once they have the laid out information for the next steps, it'll either be by the end of the year or going into next year when they will give us another Meet the Primes update.
Ms. Howard, can you talk to any more of your outreach events that are coming up?
So we always have our Meet the Prime series. We just concluded one of our Meet the Prime series. We have them 3 times a year. So we have them in March, June, and September for the Meet the Primes. And then we do an introduction to working with WMATA in between those months, where we have the procurement office talk about how to do business with WMATA. We also try to plan where we do outreaches where we support other entities, such as this one. We do have one coming up where I think it's the Maryland, I'm not sure about the name, but it's the Maryland Department of, I don't know, the Environment. We've been invited to do several outreaches there. So we do post them on our website as we do the ones that we support as well as our internal.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question. If we were registered in WMATA's old system, do we have to register for the new supply portal?
So the supply portal has been updated. It's not that it's brand new, but it's been updated, and you may want to go in there to update your information and do a new login number.
Thank you. There are several questions that came up about prompt payment. Can someone explain what is the prompt payment process?
So we do have a prompt payment process. Normally Brian speaks to that when it comes to contract compliance. We just updated the system. The process is that we do give training to prime and subcontractors, even if they don't have a contract with WMATA and they want to learn about how we do prompt payment here. And the reason why we give the classes is to talk them through the supply portal system that they will utilize to enter their payment information. So if they would like to reach out to us for that, we can give them more detailed information.
Thank you, Ms. Howard. The next question, are there any plans to simplify the certification process? They say most of the certification processes and requirements information is the same.
Well, because most of them are the same, you cannot get away from any type of federal required application paperwork. That's always going to be there. Because you have the federal program, then you have your non-federal programs. When it comes to auditing, we have to keep 2 separate packets, right, for auditing. So the federal program comes in and audits it. It has to see that although you might be certified in the DBE program, which is federal, and the MBE program, which is non, it cannot be put together. That's why we cannot utilize them on the same application. We have to have 2 separate applications for auditing purposes. So there are some things in the certification process that we are never going to get away from. One of the things that we have done here at WMATA is for the non-federal programs that Michael talked about, the minority business, small and micro business programs, we try to make it easier for those companies or small businesses within the DMV to have less to do when it comes to being certified as far as the requirements if you are already certified in your home state.
Thank you so much, Ms. Howard. You did mention earlier that there's going to be some information sent out about new opportunities.
Yes.
Is there a portal, something that the MBEs and others that's participating here today can go
Yes.
and look on? Thank you.
So that, thank you so much. That information is in the handouts for the information for the portal as well as our hotline, and a link will be sent to our solicitations and opportunities as well.
Thank you all so much. Mr. Marks, I'm going to turn it back over to you. There are no more questions at this time.
Okay. Hey, thanks very much. A great information. For the audience, I'll just tell you, if you weren't taking copious notes, you lost out on a good 45-minute presentation. But as we've stated, the 4 handouts, which includes the briefing that they gave today, are in the chat under the handout tab. And most of those important links were also listed in the chat by our team that's running behind the scenes. I'll just tell you just a couple of comments. You know, they talked about certification, and I like what Michael said. Michelle's philosophy is, you know, if you think your business strategy, now you had to listen, if you think your business strategy warrants it, then get all the certifications. Okay, but you got to understand, you have to understand what your business strategy is, because having a certification is not going to win you a contract. Okay, so my boss, Sharon Penders, likes, you know, her favorite thing about certifications is, hey, certification is a license to hunt. So if you ain't going to hunt, you might as well leave it on the shelf, right? Don't forget the paperwork. Okay, so they do not bring contracts. It puts you in a place, you know, I'm an old Army guy, you know, tools in your toolkit is what it's about. So go get them if you want them, but use them to your advantage. Okay. The other thing is that she just stated that they try to make life a little easier. So if you're in the DMV, get your DBE certification with your state. It's a reciprocal agreement that they're working with.
Yes.
Okay, you just got to have your stuff already done. Let's see the last piece here, because well, that was it. So certifications is a license to hunt. That comes from CMRSDC's famous president, Sharon R. Pender. And now, you know, the director of the small business office at WMATA, who tells you get them all, but use them. Okay. So we want to thank you for tuning in with us. I want to thank this outstanding group of my colleagues, you know, as we try to work with you to help you grow and sustain your business or even get started in your business. Okay. But you got to come to the table ready to work. And if you're willing to do that, then things are going to look bright for the future. And WMATA's getting that money, you know, and, you know, they kind of tied what, you know, the little known secret is this. They kind of tied to the US DOT, right? Because that money kind of flows. If you follow the money is flowing from the United States Department of Transportation all across the United States to organizations that Michelle and Brian and Michael belong to in order to the public transportation that we know that we need so well in the DMV. Maybe one day they'll build some sky bridges on 95, or maybe, Michelle, the metro will run down to where I live, which is south of Springfield. Stretch that blue line down that way. That'll create some more jobs, right?
Yes, sorry.
Before I can even ride, it's gonna create some more jobs. So I'm just baffled on why the metro stopped at Springfield and didn't make a left turn and go down 95. They could stop at Potomac Mills. Okay, I'll get off that soapbox. But that's a thought. Another line going south, create more jobs.
There you go.
Okay. Thanks very much for being here with us. We greatly appreciate it. We look forward to working with you. And for all those folks, next month, we got 2 federal entities, the Marine Corps, which is hard to get, and because they don't like people who think they still belong to the Navy. We won't start no fights. And then the Corps of Engineers. So the Army and the Marines are going to come and talk to us about what they need next month. On the 3rd Thursday of the month, which if I got my dates right, that's about the Claudia. I can't remember now, but it's the 3rd Thursday of the month that we will do this, and the flyers are coming out soon. Again, teammates, thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Tommy. It's been our pleasure. We look forward to partnering with you.
All righty.
Bye-bye.
Take care.